Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism. So I'm gonna put a situation to you and want you to reflect on whether this has ever happened to you. So what about when the narcissistic person is horrible to other people, but they're still really nice to you? It's a unique dynamic that some of you may be thinking, well, I'd love that for a change. You actually may not love that once you hear more about it. So this is an interesting dynamic. The narcissistic person liking you, still being nice to you and being really awful to other people. But it's an interesting dynamic that might happen in families, probably more than in intimate relationships, but frankly, it can happen in any narcissistic relationships. So let's break down how it may look in a variety of relationships. The first may be that you are in a new relationship. They are treating you like it's a fairy tale. They are successful at what they do and they oversee a large team at work. You overhear them talking on a Zoom call to their team, and they are just awful, humiliating, contemptuous, and dismissive. And then a few weeks later, when you're going on a weekend away and you check into a hotel with them, the room they wanted is not available, and they lose it. They demand to see the manager. You want to sink into the ground. The manager comes out, tries to calm everything down, and gives the room that your person you're traveling with, the narcissist, wants. And once you guys get up to the room, the narcissistic person sweeps you up in their arms and shows you the fabulous room and says, "Only the best for my baby." Second scenario, your parent is narcissistic and they are big on a whole family first and family sticks together and we're a big family party line nonsense. You watch them as a child be terrible to other people, restaurant servers, the guy who would cut the lawn, even to some of your extended family, but then they'd playfully ruffle your hair and say, "How's my kid doing?" These patterns will persist into adulthood. And when you called it out to them, like said, how can you treat this person that way? They would be dismissive and say something like, they're nobody. What's your problem? What are you, choosing some flunky over me? Here's a third scenario. Your boss is narcissistic. And when you got the job, you were thrilled. This person is a visionary, the best at what they do. And this was not an easy position or easy job to get. You wanted to learn from this boss, and they recruited you heavily into the job. You were in a meeting with the larger team, and this happened pretty regularly. And in this particular meeting, some of the goals for the quarter were not met, and this boss became enraged, screaming so loudly and so cruelly that some of the more junior team members cried. The boss even pushed a chair across the room and threw a tablet to the ground with such force that it broke. Everybody in that team knows that you're one of their key mentees. You felt gross sitting there up in the front of the room. You go to happy hour with these folks that were being screamed at. And after this meeting was done, you go back to your office, and then the boss calls you into their office, where they then start complimenting you on the report that you put on their desk saying, "Oh, thank goodness I have at least one competent person on this team. You're going to end up being the savior of this place." So when you hear scenarios like this, and I'm sure you have some of your own, some of you, let's talk about some cognitive dissonance. When you're being love-bombed and treated really well by a narcissistic person, it can feel great. And then when you observe their awfulness, but they aren't being awful to you, there's a sense of well, aren't they supposed to be devaluing me too? So then you might find yourself justifying and saying, well, maybe the hotel guy should have been more organized and know that he's got the VIP benefits at the hotel. But it can feel really unsettling when the bad behavior and the entitled tantrum to get the better hotel room works. And they view it as some kind of prize they're offering you. That's where cognitive dissonance starts playing Twister in your mind. For children, it's even more difficult. Even when parents are awful and abusive, children need attachment to survive and to be safe, and they will love a parent despite some awful behavior. An empathic child may struggle more with this, feeling a sense of shame or sadness for the hurt and insulted people in the parent's wake. And as they get older, may feel even more embarrassed, perhaps even wanting to apologize for the abusive parent. And then sometimes feeling guilty when their parent is nice to them. A kid who may not have that same empathy, like a less empathic kid, may go a different direction and learn from observation and watching the parent's abusive behavior, how the parent mistreats other people, may end up becoming the playbook that guides their own behavior. And then if we go to that work example, that also raises some issues related to triangulation. You are treated well, others are treated badly. The mean boss is in essence telling you that you are the golden child, basically, at work. And you may actually like your colleagues, but this isn't a family. And there may be some real suspicion and distancing from you for being the chosen one by a toxic, harmful boss. Your colleagues may just say, yeah, we don't want anything to do with this person. It's almost a little easier when the narcissistic person treats you as badly as they treat everyone else. We have talked at length about the dynamic of the narcissistic person treating you badly and other people well, leaving you with little support and everyone else thinking that the narcissistic person is great and wondering what is wrong with you for not thinking that they're great. But this sort of different kind of dynamic, while not nearly as common, it's very real. Many people in these situations may experience a sense of what's called moral injury, a feeling as though they have done something bad, even though it is the narcissistic person behaving badly. But it becomes a sort of guilt by association thing. But because the narcissistic person is behaving badly and then turning around and treating you well, it's very common to feel as though you are the one who is partially responsible for the hurt that they caused other people. That by being treated well by the narcissistic person, that you're somehow complicit. And that sense of moral injury over time can take a massive toll on your mental health and take any narcissistic abuse and also make it worse. The frameworks for understanding this and the actions to take may vary on the basis of the relationship. If you, for example, are still in the love bombing stage or in the early part of a narcissistic relationship, I promise you it's a matter of time before their rage turns on you. In a family relationship, there may be the uncomfortable recognition that you have been careful with the narcissistic parent or family member because you know what their rage looks like. And you fall into line with them to avoid it. You may even feel like an enabler in that situation. In the workplace, it's the same thing. It's the weighing out of the opportunity, the discomfort of being allied with someone who can treat your colleagues so badly. There also has to be the recognition that it will be you before too long, but there may also be opportunities there. When the narcissistic person rages at and abuses other people and not you, they are showing you the breadth of their behavioral repertoire. And it's only a matter of time before what you do lands you afoul of them, and you're probably going to have to face their rage. Many survivors of narcissistic abuse have said that there were so many things to heal from. And one of the most pointed was the shame of being associated with a person who treated other people so badly. Radical acceptance means recognizing that they may be treating you well, but they are simultaneously a tyrant. And for lots of folks, the confusion between the niceness and the related behaviors such as the generosity or the largesse of the narcissistic person against the context of their terrible treatment of other people results in terrible cognitive dissonance. And then you throw into that the shame of being associated with the narcissistic person. And all of this, although it's not the narcissistic person being mean to you, this almost becomes an equally intense, maybe even worse pattern to have to heal from. If the narcissistic person is nice to you and mean to other people, it doesn't make you responsible for their behavior. You didn't yell at those people. And maintaining a relationship with the narcissistic person doesn't make you complicit. But it will, over time, make you uncomfortable. It will be difficult to reconcile their good treatment of you with what they are capable of with others. But let radical acceptance be your teacher and also make you curious about your own behavior with the narcissist. Do you hold back out of fear of their rage? Do you make justifications about them to other people? Be very careful about doing this because it can be deeply invalidating to other people who are harmed by the narcissist. If you are in this situation, acknowledge that people are being harmed by them and don't try to bring in context because abuse in any form is not permissible. And then there is the uncomfortable realization that you may be viewed as an enabler, or that even though your association, like I said, doesn't make you responsible for the narcissistic person's behavior, and it doesn't make you complicit, other people are in fact being harmed by the narcissistic person, and those other people may not be so circumspect, and they may very well, these other people may take the stance that you're like the narcissistic person, or may even be partly responsible. And this can bring up tremendous grief, guilt, and other complex emotions. There can sometimes be this strange sense of incredible family loyalty when you have narcissistic matriarchs and patriarchs involved, that they will treat people that are maybe around the family terribly, but have a loyal, stick-together narrative with a tight inner core that they deploy. So they may have their family around them and humiliate a server at the family reunion, and then go right back to the cheerful family banter. It can be quite chilling to watch that flip-flop. The empathic family members will be very uncomfortable. The ones that are a chip off the old block may emulate it. Loyalty can really lurk in very weird places with narcissistic folks who will often, again, be terrible to everyone, but strangely loyal to their families. This is a unique dynamic. It's not a common one, but it's a very uncomfortable one. It can make healing more complex because of this moral injury piece that we can see here. Some people may understand it and cut you slack, while others, though, may not. It may also be a matter of time before you are on the receiving side of their rage, but you may be more prepared for it in this kind of situation because you are familiar with their behavioral repertoire. That said, I don't care how prepared you are. When they hit you with the rage that they have typically shown to other people, it still stings, but it may allay some of the moral injury. Ultimately, most narcissistic folks will show you their dark side if you stick around long enough. So if you witness their mistreatment of other people, hold onto your hat and gird yourself. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but the first time that they perceive that you let them down, your favored child status may evaporate. So again, it's this idea that they treat you well, they mistreat everyone else, they think that you're the best and parade you around as such, and you know what they're capable of. That disconnect, if you're a decent human being, is a lot to take in. And when it does happen, not only does it raise incredible cognitive dissonance, it can also raise this idea of moral injury, this sense of guilt about how other people are suffering, and it may also make healing even more difficult, even though it's not you being mistreated, but ultimately, give it time, and enough time, they will turn their wrath on you. And just as a reminder, as always, I'm going to give you this new book coming out. You can pre-order it. Use the link there in the video. It's coming out soon, so if you pre-order it, it'll be in your mailbox before you know it. Thank you again.